Welcome to the AI in Education podcast. Good morning, Ray. How are you today and where are you?
I am great, Dan. I'm in Sydney. I'm working with a local business here. So I'm in the blandest of bland spaces. I realize I've worn a white shirt on a white background. So it's probably just my hands and my face that you're seeing. Where are you, Dan?
I'm at home today, working from home, kind of starting the week nice and gently getting into this and recording a great podcast with one of our amazing guests. Now, I'll introduce Jocelyn in a second, but where I know Jocelyn from is around digital nutrition, which is a brand that she's created. Jocelyn's amazing. She's a psychologist, a cyber psychology consultant, the founder of Digital Nutrition, and a speaker, an MC, writer, all kinds of things in between. When I first met Jocelyn, if for people who haven't met Jocelyn Brewer before, was via social media. She's been a key part of my personal learning network, my PLN, as they call it in kind of teaching speak as well. And I think personally for me, doing a lot of e-safety training with the Australian Federal Police and the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre in the UK over the last 15, 20 years, I've really felt strongly around the area of kids' use of technology. Now, where I think it's interesting, and hopefully the conversation we can have today with Jocelyn, is to explore, in Australia, we've now got a social media ban. AI is all over the place, whether it's in a school or whether it's at home. Parents are struggling to keep up. Kids going off on the train and rattling along. If you listen to Stephen Heppel's version of a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we're wondering how fast this is going and what we should be doing and what we can learn from, thinking about digital technology implementation with children. So hopefully we can explore that today. And welcome to the podcast, Jocelyn.
Thank you.
Where are you at the minute, Jocelyn?
On the unceded lands of the Bidjigal people in southwestern Sydney. So what we might call Bankstown, for instance. So
yeah, fantastic. Well, welcome to the podcast. And what are you up to at the minute? So when I mentioned digital nutrition, just as a bit of a setting the scene, can you explain to us about that and just give us a kind of setting of where that might be in the current environment?
Yeah, because a lot of people are like, what? Why have you got like a diet person on to an AI podcast? So digital nutrition is basically my positive technology use philosophy. It's all about participating in online spaces in healthy and intentional ways. So I came up with this in about 2013 when I was still a school counsellor with the New South Wales Education Department. And I was sort of doing this little passion project on the side. And we were talking a lot about digital detoxing. And I thought that sounds really gross. I don't want to be on a digital diet. I want to really participate in online spaces in ways that contribute to my mental health and well-being and build my communities, which is exactly why I'm sitting here all these years later, Dan, and we haven't even mentioned Twitter at this point, which is really where like a lot of those professional learning networks, like 8 to 10, maybe even 15 years ago, were sitting. So this was a really great example of, I guess, digital nutrition was the way that I made so many contacts in that space when I was first starting out. And I got a Premier's Teaching Scholarship to then go and investigate digital citizenship, which still needs a massive rebrand, right? Like it's super dorky. No kid is buying into digital citizenship. But if we say, hey, how do we learn to be really effective participants in emerging digital spaces and use AI well? You're probably going to get a whole bunch of kids really interested because they're very cluey about how this is shaping their future, along with all of the other issues like climate change and, wars and all those things that are happening, the poly crisis.
So if we meander down that road a little, and then we just touch on, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but we touch on then the social media phenomenon that's happened. What have you seen from that, and how is that then morphing into the AI kind of world?
Yeah, look, I think what we've done is really not invested in teaching the literacies and capabilities required to participate in these spaces. Now, participating in Instagram is very different to participating in Discord or Roblox or using a large language model, for example. Where are we effectively and meaningfully in a relevant way that kids go, oh, somebody actually cares about how I'm participating rather than just, How are they prohibiting me from finding the, psychological nutrients of connection, competence, and control, which is really what drives most of us to be in those online spaces. So I think what I notice, and having been an educator, is that we're not teaching those lessons. We don't know them ourselves. And I don't think there can ever be one single place that's teaching these lessons. We can't just rely on the e-safety office to do it all. The growth in what that office is attempting to do over the last 10 years has been really, really massive. But I do think we need to get explicit about the lessons that we're teaching people, because we love to talk about digital natives and digital immigrants. And I think in this situation, I've always said there's no digital immigrants, they're digital orphans. But for many of us, we're all AI explorers, but we're going in blind to some of the exact same risks that have been there with social media and games that we still haven't addressed, even with a social media ban that has changed almost nothing for the majority of people.
So your background is you're a psychologist.
Mhm.
I saw you've got a master's in cyber psychology, which
Yeah.
I'd love to spend hours talking about what the difference is. And you're an ex-teacher, so you've got this multiple perspective, and you're coming into a world that I think is a collision of ideas. In fact, I read an article this morning on the conversation, and it was why exposing young children to AI content could have irreversible consequences,
Yep.
which I agree with. But when I read the article, it was all about screen time. And so there's this confusion between devices, screen time, social media, and then AI comes along with a completely different set of rules almost in the way that
Yeah.
young people interact with them. I'd be fascinated to understand what is the issue at the core of AI and kids.
Look, I think the issue at the core of that is it's another piece of the screen time puzzle, right? And we love to talk about time online because it's a really simple metric that we can measure and then pat ourselves on the back as good parents if they've only had their 2 hours per day or whatever it used to be. The American Academy of Pediatrics have recently completely done away with those time-based limits, which were really just an artifact from whoever set that up to begin with were exercise physiologists, and they were like, this is the amount of time we can afford to be sedentary. Obviously, my whole thesis is that, what you're doing, the content and the context of what you're consuming is really, really important. So if you're spending long stretches of time using a large language model to be your friend and to help you feel better about the world, that can be both positive and negative. And again, this is not about good or bad binary conversations. My work is about getting into the gray areas of understanding what motivates humans. And it's usually to feel good and to alleviate their stress or distress. And what's happening with AI is, again, we're letting kids into spaces that we don't understand. And to go back to an analogy that I think is still really powerful is around how we teach swimming lessons. We don't throw our kids into the surf when they're 16 and hope that they have, by osmosis, learned some of the critical thinking and the physical skills to be safe. We actually need to be in the digital waters with our kids, experimenting with them. So we need to play video games with them. We need to know what's on their Discord servers and how Discord works. We need to have chatted to a large language model ourselves in order to understand some of the features of that and why it would be so compelling to a young person when, I don't know, something as to us, maybe as simple as a friendship hiccup can be solved by talking to something who doesn't judge you, who has time for you, who will really, inverted commas, listen and then respond. I just feel like still we're not deeply stopping to understand young people and position them as experts in their own lives. And doing that really shifts the conversation.
That's really interesting because one of the comments I was reading the other day, some of our past episodes, and I was trying to, when we interview students and we ask schools, can we speak to students about their use of AI? We often get the ones who are doing the videos and using large language models like mad, right? So to sort of counteract that a little bit, and knowing my unconscious bias anyway, because I'm in tech myself, I interviewed my own kids on a podcast, and Megan said one of the comments she said was about how she used that. I asked her how she uses AI, and she said about the way she uses it to solve issues with dance and her friendship group. And that was really, really interesting for me. And I, as a parent, hadn't asked her about that. And I didn't know she was using it for that. You've done quite a bit of work with that companionship element. And obviously, one of the reasons why that, when I'm speaking to schools at the minute, they're trying to limit the use of this and thinking about it carefully is because then on one hand, people are using consumer tools and kids are talking to all the different AIs out there in the social media. But on the other hand, in the US, you get OpenAI being sued for companionship and suicidal tendencies and things. So, what should we be thinking about there as school leaders?
Yeah, look, this is a really big question, and I'm developing basically some guidelines that it's a risk minimization issue here. We're not going to go to a Year 9 assembly and tell everyone in Year 9 how to use this safely, but there are a pocket of young people who are already really invested in particular models even. And I was talking to a service provider in the Northern Territory today where there's huge floods, the internet is down, and a lot of young people actually can't talk to their best friend. They're more distressed about not being able to talk to their companion because the internet is down than, other things. So there's so many different ways that this kind of plays out. And there's not a lot of guidance on it because people are really, really scared, and rightly so, to provide a framework for young people to use this safely without then it becoming litigious if something does go wrong. What's changed with a model like ChatGPT is that it will, or should, apparently, shut down conversations around suicidality much faster and direct people to help services much faster. My thesis here is that we need to go back to reliable chatbots like Wobot, like some of the models that are designed to have these conversations and triage where these conversations go properly so that they're directly linking you into services, not just say, well, this is how you prompt engineer better so that you get a more therapist-like response. This is still really emerging and I'm still trying to work it out, but I'm at the point where for my own clinical practice, I'm suggesting that people can bring their chatbots to therapy, that you should banter with a bot, but hear with a human when it comes to doing the therapeutic work. Because I know that like even my best friends who have PhDs and, are epic humans are doing the same thing that 14-year-olds are doing at 2:00 in the morning where they're feeling at some level of distress.
Wow.
That's fascinating because one of my very deliberate strategies is to not anthropomorphize AI. I don't call it a name. I don't think of it as a brain behind a screen. Yeah, sure, it's very smart and it can do amazing things, but I don't think of it in any way as a person. And I think for me, that's a defense mechanism to not see it as a companion for me.
Yeah. And I mean, that goes back to the reason that it's called AI to begin with. It's a large language model that machine learns. Artificial intelligence was a way of creating some level of humanity that's related to it being intelligent. And I encourage people just to remember it is a pattern recognizer. And because it's trained on a lot of information and a lot of patterns of humans, it's going to predict a version of what the right thing is to say. And if people are clued in, they have a paid account, they've trained it up, they've given it clear guidelines, and a lot of kids are making this stuff up. They're building the plane while they're flying it. It can be helpful until it's not. And until, again, if we're talking about young people, until their underdeveloped brain can't predict itself what the next outcome is. And if you have parents who are like, I don't get it, I don't understand this stuff, blah, 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 and they minimize it or push kids away, they're more likely to go deeper.
So, because you kind of branched up from school, you're doing the cyber
Mhm.
psychology stuff all up, an interesting thing that I remember when I was teaching myself, where Facebook was a bit of a nightmare at that point, and he was still me in school because we actually, when it first came out, and a few years afterwards, we banned it in school, and there was always a tension in my mind because I wanted to train the kids how to use it properly,
Mhm.
and we had a discussion about it. And I remember a parent coming in and having an argument with me about the way that she was interacting with her daughter on some game within inside Facebook.
Mm. Mm.
So what I'm hearing from you today is that I suppose we're looking at the students and kids in K-12 and how we do that, but this is also affecting young adults, and it doesn't matter how old you are, people are kind of anthropomorphizing it at any age, right? So without trying to solve for society then, I suppose, is there anything we can do? Like, if you were a teacher in a school now and in charge of the actual policy, what's the sensible thing to do? What's the approach to bring parents along that journey with you?
I don't know what role policy has in terms of limiting or structuring people's use of large language models, especially from the companionship piece. I think if anything, schools are going to benefit because if as kids are using it to go, what should I do in this friendship situation? That's like resources of the deputy that are being freed up
Mm,
because, oh, you solved it for yourself and ChatGPT has given you a really great thing to drop into the group chat to stop the kind of beef that's happening. And I'm a constant optimist. People call me Pollyanna all the time because I have this hope and expectation of young people that they're actually there to do their best, not kind of ruffle feathers. And the ones who are there to ruffle feathers are my kind of kids to begin with, right? I don't want to work with the SRC rep. I want to work with the kids who are always on detention. I'm not sure exactly, what the policy for schools would be. I think if I was in schools, I think we just need to have these really open conversations and be curious to help young people with whatever corners that they're exploring and to provide that risk mitigation rather than a reactive shutdown approach. Because young people are going to find information from nefarious sources if we're not the kind of clear, firm but fair, honest, transparent people that we need to be for young people. This is why we have young men being radicalized into the manosphere, into all sorts of radicalized far right, or as I call it, far wrong aspects, and for young women who are often a version of that themselves. So,
Well, that's
yeah,
interesting.
I'm glad I'm not in schools trying to make policy right now.
I know. It's interesting how you brought that up there because, like, I just wrote the LinkedIn article, I think Saturday or Friday. I'd watched the Louis Theroux,
Yeah.
Monster thing, and I'd seen some other things, and I'd just noticed personally a pattern that I've seen my own kids as well, where they're getting caught. And actually, to be fair, some of these people are very savvy at utilizing the platforms to gain video likes to therefore monetize it.
Yeah.
So the likes of the people on the manosphere were absolutely abhorrent, but they're utilizing the algorithm and people like Bonnie Blue, for instance, they're utilizing it to get the reactions out there. So I think kids are stepping into this environment around social media, my daughter included as well. I've had a couple of chats with her over the years recently where she's been doing things. She knows exactly how the algorithm works and what can get her likes and what can get her videos viral on social media. And it's hard as a parent to manage this. As a school, lots of schools I'm speaking to are going, well, is it my responsibility? And you're just passing this rugby ball around between parent, school, and then nobody's holding the ball at the end of the day.
Yeah, look, it's a super, super complex one because influence and popularity have always been a key currency, right? Money, power, the patriarchy, the influence, and the things that I guess are being exposed about how power and politics and influence has worked in the shadow of the Epstein files is, again, giving us more and more information about who really runs the world. And social media gave everyone a platform where everyone, literally, if you watch that Louis Theroux doco or Louis Theroux as one of those guys, obviously didn't know who Louis Theroux was or how to say his name, which in
Yeah.
itself I thought was like very, very interesting. I think parents should really watch that. I watched that with my husband, and we have an 8-year-old daughter, and we're like, this is why we co-view. This is why we have no screens before school. She comes home from school all the time. He's like, Mum, can we search this game? I found this thing. My friend told me that. So it's all happening, even on a little level, that power and influence and what you're watching and who you're belonging, right? We talk about FOMO, but that sense of belonging happens really early. And so when we've made everyone or given everyone this opportunity through social media to have a voice, to have an opinion, and the fact that in those spaces, we know rage and rage baiting has far more reach than hope core, right? So you
Yeah.
can post positivity and maybe it's toxic positivity or all of that sort of stuff. That does not get the same kind of traction as saying obscene things, whether it's racist, homophobic, misogynist, all of those things. That is
Mm,
far more powerful and picked up by an algorithm that wants you to stay on the platform than somebody saying kindness is cool and being racist is for dickheads.
mm,
I'm feeling, while I'm agreeing with everything you're saying, I'm now feeling this sense of doom
Yeah.
because, oh my goodness, we've not dealt with social media very well. And here we are as a society now diving into AI that can amplify all of this stuff. So just made me feel better.
You feel better.
Um,
Yeah.
because and the reason I'm thinking this is, if I think about education, we've got this great job of identifying a problem in society, and if it involves young people saying, "Okay, well, schools suddenly have a responsibility to fix that. People aren't eating properly, schools can fix that.
Yes.
Kids are spending too long on social media, schools can fix that." So you've got this endless list of
Yeah.
things that, as a teacher, you're
Totally.
responsible for. You're an ex-teacher. How do I respond to this as a teacher? As a teacher, what could I do about this tsunami?
Yeah. Look, I find it really hard not to always blame capitalism for these things. So, the reason that parents are so busy that they don't have time to talk to their kids about sex ed or teach them how to eat well or any of those things that our parents maybe avoided because we just didn't talk about it, but certainly had more time to do, is because often teachers are already so busy using technology to collect all this data that we don't even know what to do with half of the, NAP plan results, and we use those badly and all of this stuff. Technology is supposed to make our jobs easier, but actually just sucks up more time. And then parents are busier because, two parents are working, if not one, then both jobs, cost of living crisis, mortgage rates going up, all of these things, we're all really squeezed. And in a capitalist society, it basically says, well, just work harder and be more productive. And AI is apparently supposed to do that. Except all it does is actually the volume and velocity at which it outputs then means we have to give it that oversight. And our brains are already stretched. We come home and double screen while watching maths. So that wasn't the hopeful thing that you wanted. I guess what we can do is really push back against this idea we have to keep getting better and more productive and more output rather than we need to go slower, right? So the opposite of the move fast and break things, which AI is like doing at an even more exponential rate, we have to move slower and fix things. And it has to start with fixing our nervous system and regulating our nervous system against the onslaught of information and just coming back to first principles and values of saying what matters to us: safety, connection, whatever your family values are, that's where I start. And that often is what schools do really well. You have values as the school, you have, PBL or some level of rules or guidelines around I'm a safe learner who belongs. And the more that we can bring it back to that and remember some of those things without all these bells and whistles, I think that's that breakthrough. And that kind of comes back to what I was saying about positioning young people as experts in their own life and really deeply valuing not just childhood, because I hear this like a lot, like, reclaiming childhood. And then, kids are out on their bikes. They just happen to be e-bikes with fat wheels. And it's like, not like that. You shouldn't be doing that. That's dangerous. And I'm like, but they're off their devices. So we really are stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to young people and especially teens. And I think especially boys and people of color in our culturally and linguistically diverse communities. It's not as simple as what John Haidt says about just, let them go and play on the streets. If you're a young African kid in Western Sydney, that's actually going to get you probably looked up. There's a whole bunch of sociological things that sit with that. And again, that's a society problem, not a technology problem. That
mm.
was another really long, convoluted answer, but
It's
you know,
amazing one. It's so thought-provoking. In your current role, what things are you doing, and how can people get in contact with you? Because I
yeah,
know you've moved from the classroom now into, you've got your own business and you work with multiple different types of folks. Are there things that you were doing to support this narrative at the minute?
yeah. So I do a range of things. And the reason I do a range of things is I want to have the most impact possible. And saying, here's like this one presentation I do for you 9, that brings me zero joy anymore. So I really love designing programs for schools that meet their specific need. And the irony of this is I can do this a lot faster now with AI because I can do a whole school survey and get that data statistically very nicely processed within about half an hour, whereas I used to would have had to sit down with SPSS and fiddle for days. Central Coast Sports College have had me come in and design a digital fitness program, which I'll actually make available to schools to purchase. And this is like each term, there's a different pillar across digital citizenship or digital fitness. So making it a bit more sexy by thinking about if you get digitally fit, you then can really have some great control over your online spaces. So you can buy programs like that. I have similar programs for early childhood. I do a range of work with parents because parents are often crying out for support just around the basics of how to parent a modern teenager because being a teen is so different to what we grew up with in the 90s and so much more, first of all, awareness around mental health, but also expectation of friends just to be there and all of those interpersonal dynamics. So yeah, lots of ways to get in touch. Literally get in touch and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What have you got for it? And if it fits in scope in my wheelhouse, I design things specifically because no two schools are the same. The emerging and how rapidly emerging some of these problems are. I'm creating new resources. As I say, like I created a resource last week that already 3 or 4 places have taken up because it meets the needs of what's happening. So
Is there a role for teachers to talk to their students about how they use AI? Because it's been underground for so long at many levels. But
yeah,
is now the time to be loud and proud about I'm using AI for this and not for this?
yeah, absolutely. I think so. And that's why I give that example of the only reason that I could basically deliver a program that I'm delivering for the cost that I'm delivering it is because AI is going to crunch all of that qualitative data. Obviously, engineering that prompt and giving it really clear guidelines to do that. If you don't know how to do that, then you should probably stay off, right? It's like your driver's license. You need to know how to drive across different contexts. So I think coming clean on what you use and how you use it. I use a voice to text dictation tool that is HIPAA compliant and all the right things for my psychology sessions. So I often work with families to coach them through how to support resetting boundaries around things like video games for kids who maybe are not attending school for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's internet addiction. Maybe it's because their school is psychologically unsafe for their child. So I use it in a range of different ways. I don't use it personally as a therapist. And that's partly because I think I've probably got that side of my life sorted. And I also have a really good therapist that I see about every 6 weeks because I do walk the talk around doing my own work.
Mm. Well, that's absolutely phenomenal. This opened my eyes massively to this kind of entire area, and there is no answer, I suppose. So one question before we bring it to the end. I'm thinking of a
Yeah.
parent now, listening to this. I know there's this connection between social media and things, and I'm thinking, well, based on your answers there, from a screen time point of view or from a parental controls point of view, a lot of the time, lots of the tools that my kids are using, there's no monitoring on them. ChatGPT and OpenAI have just released, or they've said they're releasing like a parental view
Yeah.
on the kind of ChatGPT models and things. So you can buy a family subscription because of all these tools, like in Snapchat and in the social media. You can't monitor what they say. And so how tell me your thoughts on that entire, monitoring your kids
Yeah,
online and
that's a
how that's gonna move
really
into AI.
Yeah, it's a really good question because I cop a lot of bullying and like people being really disparaging on particular group in particular love to give me crap online about the fact that I have spoken at events for Meta and I have talked about Instagram teen accounts. Now, Instagram teen accounts were launched before the social media legislation was introduced and are like a sandpit for young people to get used to the Instagram experience with parental controls, with different rules around what they will be advertised, with different ways that they can curate their feed. Now, Meta Messenger, like Kids Messenger, was a version of that. We need to have little sand pits for kids to practice and participate using those skills. We don't learn skills just by osmosis. We don't learn to drive by watching, mum drive us to soccer and around the place and then go, oh yeah, she checks a blind spot. We actually explicitly learn to drive. We have logbooks. We have to show that we've done driving across all different types of terrain. And, this is very similar, I guess, to the idea of those swimming lessons. So until we actually mandate some of those things and give people opportunities to practice, then we are just throwing them in the digital deep end. My daughter last week woke up and needed to do a SRC speech, and it was 8:00. And we asked Claude, we gave Claude the information of what she wanted to say, and it spat out a speech, and I tweaked it a bit. We did the speech, we sorted out the speech, we got her ready for school, and we were not late. Okay. So that's how I'm using it. We did that together. She was horrified. She was like, Mom, that's cheating. And I'm like, no, it's not.
I
so
had
I
to do a
think-
similar thing where my son wasn't going to hand in some homework, and he was just miles behind, and he was going to bed. And I went into Copilot and I said, create me 5 slides on Handmaid's Tale or whatever it was. Don't fill them all in. Give me the headings. And then I had this kind of blank skeleton. And then I sent it to him and I said, now fill in the bits you're going to get marked on. And he
Yeah.
just took all of that kind of pain out, and he just went blah, 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 blah. And he got it done. Didn't get a great mark for it, but at least he got it handed in. It was just a time saver.
Yeah. Yeah. And we didn't say, oh, make up a speech that will get you onto the SRC. She said, I want to be a playground pal. I care about people belonging. I want people to have friends. And then I said, write a speech. It's 30 seconds. Talk like an 8-year-old Australian girl who really likes K-pop demon hunters. That's it went. She, added her own flourishes, but it gave her enough to be able to give the speech, which of course they didn't do the speech on Monday. I get the parents are really slammed, but like seriously, it's our job to be there for kids and model that. And if we abdicate that, we cannot then be surprised that big tech didn't give a shit about us. Like, if no offense, Dan, but
that's good. Yeah.
really doesn't on a person to person basis like care. That's our job. And so my very first, as a commerce teacher, that first lesson in commerce is let the buyer beware, caveat emptor. And so I think as consumers, we have to be really conscious about what we're stepping into with the food we eat, with the tech we use, with the cars we drive, with the corporations that own all of this. We have to really, really do our due diligence about whether or not we want to be involved in that. And again, Quick GPT is a really big movement where in the last couple of weeks, the use of ChatGPT has plummeted because of their involvement in what some would call an illegal war against Iran.
Oh my God, we've gone macro, micro, macro, and half the audience of teachers are currently judging you for the 2 confessions you've just given. What a journey that is.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I think what is clear out of this conversation is there is no one answer, that there are lots of valid routes to take. I think what I take away from this is you've got to do something, and don't worry about doing absolutely the perfectly right thing. There are a bunch of things you could be doing. There's things you could be doing for parents. There's things you could be doing for students, but start the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me too, I hope what's come across is it's not about me being a guru or having the answers or telling you what's right and wrong. It's actually about me facilitating a conversation where you can use critical and creative thinking to question your choices and not just blindly go along with what's quick and easy, but actually what is really savvy ways to maintain that mastery over the tech so you don't become a slave to it. Because I think that's what differentiates me. I'm just a girl standing in front of technology asking how we can have a better life and live alongside this. I am not saying what is right or wrong, because I don't believe that there's it's that it's that simple. And anyone who tells you it's that simple is probably bullshitting you.
Well, thank you, Jocelyn, for sharing your thoughts and your amazing work and your research with all the audience. And thanks for being part of our professional learning networks as well, because like this discourse is really missing at the minute in this entire technology sphere around AI. It was slow coming with social media, and I think if we can get in front of it, then we can do the right thing. So thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
And I want to thank you because I now have an action list, and the action list is, how do I become a master of digital tech rather than a slave to it. And straight after this, I'm going to go and ask ChatGPT how to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jocelyn.
Ironic match.
Thank you.